Welcome to Spinning Back Clique, where each week here at MMA Junkie, we take a spin through the biggest stories in MMA. I'm your host, Gorgeous George, and with me as always, some of the sharpest MMA minds in the biz. This week, we got Danny Segura from Miami. He's also the host of Hablemos MMA. You got to check that show out. Goes from MMA Junkie Radio is always with us. He's ready to bring the thunder. He's in Sin City. And how about this? The former Aztec from SDSU joins us today. Simon Samano, living in LA, but always repping NorCal, excuse me. They don't like NorCal. Cold coffee's on the ones and twos. Let's get to it. All right, guys, a lot of MMA action went down this past weekend, but before we discuss the recent violence, how crazy is this midweek story from this past week? UFC President Dana White was asked about Nate Diaz and Jake Paul competing in boxing. Here's what he said. Allow me to read this quote. He said, "I don't know what we're going to do. I like Nate, but let's be honest. Nate has won one fight in the last 5 or 6 years. When these guys get into these positions, you have guys who have been here with us for a long time that we respect and care about. You want to be fair. You want to do the right thing, whatever. Nate Diaz is going to come in and is not going to come in and fight Kamaru Usman. We're trying to do the best we can, trying not to shit on anybody or disrespect anybody. He probably should go and fight Jake Paul." He said that, guys. That's a fight that makes sense. That ends the quote. What do you make of these comments, guys, by UFC President Dana White? Let's dissect this. 4 minutes are on the clock. Danny, get things started.
Yeah, this is very interesting. Usually when there's sort of a free agent or somebody nearing free agency, you get Dana White saying, "Oh, we'll see what happens. You know, we're working on it. We're talking to the team, whatever." But by Dana White sort of acknowledging that, you know, this fight makes sense, it's kind of like the writing on the wall. It kind of signifies that Nate Diaz is bound to test free agency. Nate Diaz does not want to sign a new contract, and it seems that we're just going to see him one more time in the UFC. I don't think they're going to cut him. I know Nate Diaz said, "All right, release me then." But I don't think that's going to be likely. I think they're going to want to squeeze one last fight out of him, given how big of a star he is, and ideally transfer some of that stardom to somebody that does have a lot of fights in their contract, that does seem to have a lot of time left in the UFC, such as a Khamzat Chimaev. So for starters, that's kind of like my reaction to it. But I also have an issue with Dana White saying, "Hey, he only hasn't won a fight in 5-6 years." Well, he's only fought 3 times too. It's like saying Khabib Nurmagomedov hasn't won a fight in 2 years. That's a true statement, but I mean, you kind of want to play with the words there. So interesting stuff by Dana White. I didn't think that this fight with Jake Paul and Nate Diaz had a lot of legs, but with those comments, it kind of makes me think that it's likely going to be a possibility that we're going to see those two fighting in the future. So interesting stuff. Certainly we'll see Nate Diaz fight one more time in the UFC. I'm pretty confident about that.
Yeah, and it kind of goes a little bit against, we're not going to disrespect anybody. We're not going to shit on anybody. I mean, pointing that out, it's like he couldn't decide what direction he wanted to go in. How do you dissect this?
Well, don't forget, it wasn't that long ago that he was saying Nate Diaz wasn't a needle mover, right? So, I mean, Dana's going to Dana. It's an incredible talent to say you're not going to shit on someone and then shit on them in the same quote. But look, actions speak louder than words. We have to look at the past, and in the past, this hasn't really happened too often, right? The UFC is all about making money, and they're very good at it. And there's no way Dana White is going to release Nate Diaz to go off and make money that they could be making in the UFC. So the question is, if he sticks around for one fight, what is he going to do, right? It's got to be the Conor fight. That's where you make the most money. But as Danny said, Dana kind of played his hand a little bit. And I feel like whatever they are going to do, if they keep him around, I think they're probably going to want to punish him. I don't think it's going to be that Conor McGregor fight. I think what they want to do, they don't want to give money to Jake Paul. Dana White's going to give his arch nemesis money. Are you kidding me? And don't forget, he's still got Tommy Fury. What happens if that fight falls through, right? What if Tommy
Fury's
Fury
the favorite? Fury's the favorite in that
everything. So that's going to change everything. So I think what Dana wants to do is stretch this out, play it out, see what happens. But I think Nate Diaz is going to get a hell of a fight in his last fight, and Dana White's going to make him pay for all this.
All right, Simon, clean things up here, man. What do you think's going on here? Did Dana get boxed in the corner and he couldn't find a way out? He might have said something he regretted.
I mean, the words are nice at face value when you hear them, but as you guys have pointed out, he's also shitted on Nate Diaz in this situation. And anything, what I've heard from you guys for the most part is Dana White is the king of petty. I mean, Nate has been screaming from the top of his lungs on Twitter for the last several months. He wants a fight. He wants to fight, or he wants to be released from the UFC. Now we've got these comments from Dana, and let's take a look here. Nate has won one fight in the last 5 or 6 years. he uses that as a justification for why Nate Diaz isn't going to fight somebody like, Kamaru Usman, right, for the title. That makes no sense whatsoever. Well, now we're in a position where we know that they've tried to make Khamzat Chimaev against Nate Diaz, but now that fight makes no sense anymore because Khamzat's ranked number 3 in the UFC welterweight rankings. So that sort of fight makes no sense whatsoever anymore. You can't use that justification against Nate and then for Nate. It just doesn't work that way, right? So like that's not good. So I guess what I'm getting at here is, if we're not going to get the Conor McGregor trilogy, or maybe we are, okay, well, now we're in a situation where Nate's going to want to renegotiate that contract, but he doesn't really want to renegotiate a new contract and add more fights potentially to a deal. He wants out of the UFC. He has said that. So why are we not just getting a Nate Diaz versus Dustin Poirier fight? That's a fight that they both have said they want. It's a fight that the fans want. It's a fight that would be action-packed. Put it as a co-main event on a pay-per-view and let Nate Diaz be on his merry way if you want to do right by him. Let's do Poirier versus Diaz, and let's move on from Diaz and let him make money elsewhere.
I heard that, and I'm all over that fight, man. Both guys want it. Let's get it done. All right. This past weekend, we had some great finishes, a few upsets, and a major title changed hands. We also had some young fighters that appeared to take that next step towards being title contenders. One of those that comes to mind is Shavkat Rakhmonov, who soundly defeated Neil Magny via submission and now stands at 16-0 with 16 finishes. I repeat, 16-0 with 16 finishes. Kind of reminds me of a few years ago with the buzz surrounding Khamzat Chimaev. All weekend I was reading, MMA media and fans kind of making that comparison. So, hey, let's go with it. From what you've seen so far, who will have the better career? Shavkat or Khamzat? Goes. It's on you, sir. 4 minutes.
This is a really tough one, guys. Look, right off the bat, I could tell you, I'm probably going to be the odd man out here. I'm going to go Shavkat, but this is going to take a lot longer than people think because, unfortunately,
the other guy fights in two different weight classes. Remember,
he doesn't really get on the mic. He doesn't really say anything. So when he fights, that's all you get, right? With Khamzat, when he fights, he's on social media. He's barking at other fighters. He gets more popular, and they're both destructive forces. But here's the thing. Khamzat kind of showed a little chink in the armor, right? In the last fight, he didn't look too good at times. And I know that's a step up in competition with a guy like Gilbert Burns. He got sloppy in that fight, though. And remember, here's the thing.
Gilbert Burns.
But he got sloppy. He looked sloppy at times. And the thing that we all remember him for was that great cardio. That really wasn't there. Now, Francis Ngannou had a moment like this, okay? And he had that happen to him against Jairzinho Rozenstruik. He righted that ship in the next fight. So who knows? Maybe that's his mulligan. But the thing with Shavkat, man, is like George said, all finishes. Do you know how tough it is to be undefeated and on top of that have all finishes, 4 of them coming at the highest level? I think the sky's the limit for this kid. I think he's going to overtake him.
All right. Danny Segura, how about you, man? You agree or disagree?
I disagree. I mean, this is both a sporting aspect and also an entertainment aspect. And look, clearly Rakhmonov is up there. Clearly, like defeating Neil Magny in the way that he did, man, you're on your way up. You're clearly a very talented individual. But the big difference is that the UFC has wrapped their arm around the promotional arm, at least around Chimaev, and we know how far that can go, not only in people's eyes, but in the politics of the sport, what kind of opportunities you get. Rakhmonov is certainly a skilled fighter. If he keeps winning, he's going to get opportunities in the future. But Khamzat Chimaev has sort of that promotional thing working for him. Plus, on top of that, let's not forget, he is a very skilled fighter. And sorry goes, but a win over Gilbert Burns is not the same thing as a win over Neil Magny. So clearly, Rakhmonov is looking very, very good, but we do have proof that Khamzat Chimaev can not only hang with the top 5, but beat them. So I'm going to go with Khamzat just from a sporting aspect and promotional, which is important. He's got everything going for him. So I'm going to go with Khamzat, but Rakhmonov is going to have a good career. Let's not forget about that.
All right, and my managerial debut in baseball did not go well here. The shift of the order. Simon, we're back at you to clean things up again.
Oh, we're all good, man. It's all good. But what's not all good is Goes holding a performance against Gilbert Burns, against Khamzat Chimaev. Look, let me just say this, okay? Before I even start splitting hairs between these two guys, it's going to be awesome when they finally are in the rankings up there together and these guys get close to fighting each other. I mean, that's going to be amazing. Until we get there, though, for the purposes of this debate, I'm going to go with Chimaev as well. And I think Danny is the one who hits on a good point here. It's about the promotional aspect of the fight as well. You know, I connect more with Chimaev. People connect more with Khamzat Chimaev. And part of it might just be the English aspect of things. And he's able to, you know, communicate better with an American fan base. But at the same time, though, that guy just like he's got an it factor to him. Chimaev does. And I was waiting for Chimaev to prove himself. I wasn't completely on the hype train before the Burns fight. But because of the way he handled that Burns fight, because of the adversity he overcame, that's why I'm going to go with Chimaev. Shavkat's going to have a hell of a career. He's going to get there as well. He's not going to be far behind Chimaev. And when they finally get to a point where they can meet, ooh, that is going to be a tasty, tasty fight.
Yeah, I think we can all agree that they're just going to smash a bunch of fools in that division. That's for sure.
I got $20 all the way around for all three of you guys that Khamzat loses first.
Well, he's already at the top of the division. His next fight is going to be somebody that's going to be more difficult than where Shavkat is. So I'm not taking that bet.
All right, we got to move on here to topic number 3. We turn the corner and it's full steam ahead for UFC 276 in the main event and co-main event. We have 2 title fights and 3 possible outcomes for these 2 fights. What is the most likely scenario? Get your Scantron out. It's like the old days. Choice A is and you twice. Choice B is and still twice. And of course, choice C would be one of each. Simon, you're going to lead things off for us. Get the party started. You got 4 minutes.
Everybody knows that when you don't have a firm answer, you just go with answer C. No, I'm just kidding. But true. Really, that is true, though. But I'm going with answer C here. And let's just say, as far as the main event goes between Israel Adesanya and Jared Cannonier, no disrespect to Jared Cannonier, but I expect Adesanya to outclass him. I expect this to be a showcase fight yet again for Adesanya. So that leaves us
flat. He's kind of been flat a little bit in some of these last few title defenses.
He's going to rise. He's going to rise to the occasion here. So that leaves us with the co-main event, and I just don't see Max Holloway losing for a third time to Alexander Volkanovski. Now, if you want a breakdown and you want, insight and analysis, Dan Tom's your guy for that. So look for that coming up, and we'll see what he picks. I'm going to go with this. There have been 14 trilogy fights in the UFC, and do you know how many of those are 3-0 for one fighter? Only 2 of them. That's Ortiz over Shamrock, and that's Edgar over Penn. If you expand that list to include Pride, Strikeforce, and WEC, it's 4 out of 23, and you would include Vanderlei over Sakuraba and Big Nog over Heath Herring. So 4 out of 23. I don't see Max Holloway being part of that list. The record books will not show that Max Holloway lost 3 times to Alexander Volkanovski, and he will reclaim the title.
All right, Danny, you're going up next. Shall we remind Simon that a lot of people thought Max won the second fight? So, I mean, he's playable here, isn't he?
I'm going to go with C. You know, when in doubt, you got to go with C. If the American school system taught me anything, no, I'm just kidding. No, I'm going to go with and still twice. Look,
what?
Yeah, I mean, look, Volkanovski has clearly improved a ton since they last fought. I mean, just look at that Korean Zombie beating. That was bad, man. That was bad. And KZ is very, very good fighter. Holloway, on the other hand, I feel like maybe I'd feel differently if this was straight off the Kelvin Kattar win, because he looked amazing in that. But I saw him fight Jair Rodriguez, and he went into that fight telling everybody in the media, the self-proclaimed best boxer in the UFC. And certainly he's a fantastic striker, but Jair pieced him up. If it wasn't because of the wrestling, Max Holloway would have lost that fight. And look, at the end of the day, I'm not doing the Conor McGregor thing where it's like jiu-jitsu and wrestling don't count. Only TKOs and KOs are valued here in MMA. No, this is a mixed martial arts content. And Max Holloway was the better fighter, the best mixed martial artist. And that's why he defeated Jair Rodriguez. But look, I don't think he's going to have that success in the wrestling department against Volkanovski. I really don't. And Volkanovski's hands and power and precision have just gotten even better. Whereas I saw some deficiencies from Max Holloway's part against Jair Rodriguez. And granted, Jair Rodriguez is a very talented striker. So, you know, No shame there, but I think it's going to be, and still, I think Volkanovski is on his way to become the greatest featherweight of all time. I mean, he beats Holloway. We're going to have to rethink that GOAT conversation with Aldo, because all of a sudden he's going to have 3 wins over Max Holloway, a win over Aldo, and a lengthy title defense now at 145 pounds. Granted, a 21 fight winning streak. I mean, it's ridiculous. So I'm going to go with and still for both events here.
All right, Goes. You are the last guy here. What you got?
I'm going to give a fist bump to Danny Segura and still twice. Look, man, here's the thing, though. They're not going to come easy. All right, Jared Cannonier is a monster. And Israel Adesanya has seen glimpses of this type of fighter in other fighters, but I don't know that he's seen it all together the way Jared Cannonier brings it. So that's going to be a tough one. I love what he said about Volkanovski. You guys got to remember, last time these two fought, it was 2020. That's a while back. And since then, Volkanovski's been untouchable. His last 2 opponents rolling into the emergency room looking like they were in a car wreck. This is going to be tough. Max Holloway's a great striker. Volkanovski's a great mixed martial artist. And I think we're going to see that Saturday night.
All right.
Did Danny just take a shot?
Shot of Cuban coffee, my friend. If you guys see me all amped up, I'm not drinking on the job, Simon.
I thought it was a victory shot. Okay, all right. We'll see what happens on Saturday.
If it was a shot, I would have given him another fist bump. All right. Next up here. Guys, this week is International Fight Week. Remember, Khabib Nurmagomedov will be inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame on Thursday. Some call him the GOAT after he retired undefeated at 29-0. Where do you feel comfortable ranking him among the all-time greats? 4 minutes are on the clock. Danny, you're going to go first. However, if he's not number 1, I want you to tell me who's in front of him. And if you're kind and put him at number 1, I want to know who's also behind him. So give me some names here to kind of make sense of it all.
Well, George, this is where immediately following this segment, this is where I'm going to have to turn off my mentions for Twitter, because what I'm about to say might be a little fiery. Dude, I don't think he's in the top 5. I can think of a lot more fighters that have achieved more than Khabib Nurmagomedov. Now, is Khabib maybe the best of all time, the most dominant of all time? Probably. We can have that conversation. Certainly, that's up for debate. But as far as greatness is highly tied to achievement. Highly tied to achievement.
Bro. Time out. I said 29-0, not 9-0. And let's not forget, this guy barely even lost rounds.
Well, that's the thing. That would be a most dominant or best conversation. Best fighter of all time, most dominant fighter of all time. But greatness is tied with achievement. Look, 3 title defenses. There's fighters that have done a lot more, that have reached greater heights of greatness. GSP, obviously, number 1. John Jones. You got Cejudo winning titles. You got Volkanovski doing things that nobody has done before. Anderson Silva, Demetrius Johnson. I mean, Khabib retired prematurely. And look, granted, not many people do that, and props to him for that, for sure. But he didn't achieve a whole lot within the space besides just being dominant. I mean, only 3 title defenses. Didn't move up a weight class to test his skills against heavier opposition. Look, Khabib is a great fighter, no doubt, a super dominant fighter, one of the best fighters of all time. But greatness, a lot have done more. I don't think he's in the top 5.
So what's your 1 through 3 at least? Give me that.
Ooh, I'll do GSP 1, John Jones 2, 3 could probably be Anderson Silva. Fedor's in that conversation. Cormier had 2 belts, defended the heavyweight belt 2 and the light heavyweight belt. There's a lot of people that I would have put forward on that conversation before I put Khabib.
Goes, do you agree? Where does he stand?
I'm turning off my mentions right now.
He didn't make Segura's Rushmore, man. How about you?
At first, I thought Danny was crazy, but some of the names he threw out starting to make sense. I have him at maybe around number 3-4 range, right? With GSP being number 1. Look, best lightweight, no brainer. But when you're talking about overall, you really have to nitpick. And one thing you got to start concluding that happens a lot, especially in today's day and age, pound for pound, guys going up in different weight classes. GSP did that. And another thing he did was he was able to fight through different generations of fighters. And I'll explain that. He went to war with a prime BJ Penn, with a prime Matt Hughes, right? But he also stuck around for guys like Condit and Hendricks, right? Where I feel like Khabib has just kind of gone through the guys that were there at the time, almost like 4 years of a college football player, and then he just took off. And right now, well, you got guys like Charles Oliveira, Michael Chandler, they're going through the ranks. Aren't we starting to kind of question this a little bit? I think if Khabib came back, he could definitely make a statement to be part of this conversation. But right now, I think I have him on the outside looking in.
All right. How about you, Simon? Do you agree with these guys?
I do agree with these guys. And look, this is never going to be a knock or any disrespect towards Khabib Nurmagomedov. He's one of the all-time greats, but he's not the greatest of all time. And where I comfortably feel putting him is probably around 5 or just outside the top 5. I would go GSP, John Jones, Anderson Silva, Demetrius Johnson firmly ahead of him. Definitely. And maybe Daniel Cormier. You got Fedor to consider. So 5, 6 is probably where I'd put Khabib. And look, it's 29-0 is impressive. And going 29-0 over an entire MMA career is a hell of an accomplishment. It's a hell of an achievement. But he's got, in my mind, 3 signature wins in his career against Conor McGregor, Justin Gaethje, and Dustin Poirier. Guys like Edson Barboza, guys like Ali Quinta, RDA, those are like second tier notable wins, but they're not signature wins. The guys that I just mentioned, GSP, John Jones, Silva, Demetrius Johnson, those guys have signature wins over Khabib. They've got longevity over Khabib. They've got title defenses, number of pure title defenses over Khabib. And so those are the factors you have to consider outside of just being 29-0. And for that reason, that's why I would say he's firmly around 5 or 6. Props to Khabib for retiring soon, but I have to hold it against him in this type of debate, in this type of conversation.
All right, good stuff. You guys explained it well. I will say that he's not my GOAT either, but I don't have him outside the top 5. I mean, if you bet on him to win, you never lost. If you were a fan and just traveled to all his fights, you never had a shitty flight home. But all right, good stuff from the
not the
team
conversation we had.
All right, guys, the last one here. After Bellator 282 took place, we now have a quartet of semifinalists for the Bellator World Grand Prix in the Bantamweight division. Shout out to Michael C. Williams. 282 winners Danny Sabatello and Magomed Magomedov will face Rafion Stotts and Patchy Mix, respectively. So Sabatello against Stotts, Magomedov versus Mix. Who advances to the finals? And if you really want to show off, tell me who wins that matchup as well. Tell you what, guys, I'm adding this to it. You get them all right. Dinner is on me. Hope you guys like Olive Garden. Up first is goes 4 minutes.
Oh, man, I don't like Olive Garden. I might just give you a ridiculous answer. But Rafion Stotts is pretty interesting because when you think about it, he had to leave Rufus Sport because Sergio Pettis was also in the Grand Prix. He went to Extreme Couture. Now he might have to leave again because, look, I'm probably giving my hand a little bit here, but I think it's going to end up being Mix and Stotts in the finals. I think both guys are very underrated, especially when you not just talk about Bellator, but you just talk about all of mixed martial arts. These are quality fighters. You look at guys like Sabatello, Magomed, they have promise, but I don't know that they're there just yet. I could be wrong, and this could be completely flipped on me, and I wouldn't be shocked. That's how good the talent level is in this Grand Prix. That's what makes things so much fun. So I like what Bellator did in bringing Sabatello in and getting in Stotts' face. That makes you mark down that calendar and say, I have to watch that. I think that's something that the UFC kind of misses a little bit with some of the stuff they do. But I'll tell you the guy that I think really benefits from all of this. And I know it's going to sound crazy because he's hurt, but Sergio Pettis. Let these young bucks go at each other. Let them put wear and tear on each other. A Grand Prix is really grueling. Rest up. And then I think you're probably going to have to face your boy, Rafion Stotts. I don't know. Patchy Mix is really good too. It could be him as well. But if I had to pick one, I hate the Olive Garden. So you know what? Give me Mix.
All right. Simon.
Wait, did you mean Patrick Mix, or are you talking about like a mixed green salad at Olive Garden? All right.
Simon, you're up next, man. Let's see if you're going to go for the dinner all the way, or you're just going to give me the 2 finalists.
I don't know if I want the dinner all the way, but anyways, I'm going to go with Stotts beating Sabatello in the semifinals, and I'm going to go with Mix beating Magomedov in the semifinals. And I am going to make a pick, and I think Stotts is going to win this entire thing. I feel like Rafion Stotts just has an it factor. We talked about it earlier with Khamzat Chimaev. I think Stotts has this sort of it factor with him as well. I love his swagger. I love his energy. I love his confidence. But more than that, I love the way he fights inside the cage. He's very technical. He is a scrappy striker when he needs to be. But, of course, he's going to lean on his high-level wrestling when he needs to as well. Like, he can beat you in a multitude of ways. Fight can go anywhere, and he can win those fights. And so, a fight between Stotts and Mix would be a hell of a matchup. But I just think Stotts is going to use this Bellator Grand Prix as a springboard to become the next Bellator star, a la AJ McKee, a la the way AJ McKee did it. Stotts is going to be the next Bellator star, winning this tournament.
And he killed it at the analyst desk. Not sure about the suit, but yeah, he's been doing great stuff. How about you, Danny Segura?
I'm gonna forego the dinner when I win, though.
Man, what about the breadsticks? Haven't you guys ever had the breadsticks? Those are good.
I have. I've had them. They come in handy. I use it to break into somebody's car through the window.
Man, forget you guys. I'll take Kenny. All right, go ahead, Danny.
I'm gonna do copy and paste from what Simon said. Look, I think that Mix beats Magomedov. I think that Stotts beats Sabatello, and in the final, I think Stotts remains interim champion and beats Mix. And I think he's going to be champion. I think he beats Sergio Pettis too. I'm going to go even a step further and say he's going to be undisputed Bellator champion. I think Stotts is one of the best bantamweights today on the planet. I mean, the guy's IQ is phenomenal. He can strike. He can wrestle his ass off. Incredible athlete, experience. I mean, the guy has it all. The guy checks all the boxes. He really is looking to be like the next star for Bellator, as Simon mentioned. But I will mention something. I do like the Italian gangster, Danny Sabatello. And I know he's 29. He's not the youngest guy, but in MMA years and mileage, dude, he's only been fighting since 2018. And we saw what ATT did with Johnny Eblem, just a few days ago, turning him into Bellator champion. So at this stage, having only a few years in mixed martial arts, dude, Danny Sabatello can make big leaps in between fights. Is it enough to catch up to Rafael Stotts? Maybe not. But if Rafael Stotts doesn't take him seriously and takes him lightly, you never know. He can surprise. I mean, Sabatello's 5'10" for the division, big, fantastic tan. He's got the Charles Oliveira hair. I mean, the dude can maybe pull off an upset. So just keep that in mind.
All right, good stuff, fellas.
Did you just say fantastic tan?
Yeah, I mean, dude, he's got that South Florida tan, dude. He's like Charles Oliveira, but Italian version, basically.
Good stuff, fellas. Here, we used the big screen. Yeah, we went over the clock, but man, we had to chime in on each other here. It was really fun trying this format. Give us some feedback there on the YouTube comments. As always, I'm throwing elbows with you guys down there. Leave some positive comments. That way we can have some good discussion here on Spinning Back Clique. We do it every week. And, of course, don't forget this week, Goz and I are hosting a watch-along, so watch the fights along with us. Check that out on MMA Junkie. We're going to discuss everything from Fight Week next here on Spinning Back Clique. See you then.